of Farmers, Mr. Michael Murphy and Mr. Con Hurley, and to welcome you all. Here, as you can see, we've split it a little bit where we've had people, Irish Dairy Board and Board B, but now we've people involved in the production and both primary and processing. So Peter is very interested in hearing your opinion on the whole volatility and how to manage it best. So just propose to just take Mr. Murphy's opening statement and then we'll group the questions from the members then. So, Mr. Murphy.
Chairman, Deputy Senator, great honour to be here today. Thanks very much. I'm a dairy farmer in Ireland, but also in the States and New Zealand and a little bit in Chile. And Con Hurley was dairy editor of the Farmers Journal for 31 years. And so we'd like to talk today, Chairman, about specific difficulties for dairy farmers in 2015, but also put it within the context of measures, ongoing measures as well, because we think it all fits. And if you look what's at the milk price, and if you look what's at the milk price 2005 to 2015, the blue line will say that indicates just the level of volatility. And if you look at 2009, the 22.6 coming off the highs of the previous 2 years. 2015. Again, we'll say that milk price way down, coming off the highs again of the previous 2 years. And this is likely to be repeated every 3, 4, 5, 6, we don't know exactly, but it's going to be a continuing pattern. And we'll say that, just want to draw attention, we'll say that what we call the grass poor route, and we'll say that, Northern Ireland, when quotas effectively went in 95, they actually bought a heap of stuff onto the farm, and we'll say that they racked up their costs, we'll say that, and they moved away from grass. So their costs now would be going from 30 to 35 cents a litre. They will be in deep, deep trouble this year. And we're probably advocating, if you like, we'll say that the need to go the grass-rich route, it's about 75% of the diet, 70-75, as grass would say. And the relevance of this is, we'll say, that actually takes a lot of skill on the parts of, we'll say, of farmers, and I'll come to that, we'll say, that where farmers are going to, if you like, get the help to enhance their skills in those areas. Now, specific difficulties for dairy farmers in 2015, as Martin referred to, super levy, perhaps 100 million, milk price drop, 23, 27 cents, maybe a 35% drop, we don't know exactly. Growing debt to fuel expansion, and tax bills next November from, topping up, we'll say, on a very good 2014. So many farm families will have serious cash flow difficulties in 2015, and particularly if we'll say a low milk price year coincides as it did in 2009, that may well, there were many farmers took 2 or 3 years to dig themselves out of a hole, and so that may or may not happen again. So actions of the Irish state government, state bodies, and whatever, it could consider to alleviate these cash flow problems. Well, lobbying in Europe, as has been mentioned. So I leave that to ICOS and IFA, ICMSA to address those, we'll say that. And banks need to be considerably more flexible, and I'll give you two particular examples. And the TAGISC funding, I would say, needs to be maintained and possibly increased in terms of upskilling existing farmers, and equally in terms of adequately training young farmers coming in. Many people are very happy with the state of training, but I'm actually going to question that quite strongly. And the US Farm Bill scope for Ireland, and I'm probably asking the question, in the light of volatility, which periodically we're going to get hit by very low milk price years, have we the necessary risk management tools in place? And the US has actually wheeled in some risk management tools, we'll say, that part of it was referred to by Martin, but one. So, in terms of, in history, sometimes it's useful to look backwards at as a possible predictor of the future. And I was reading Des O'Malley's book, we'll say, that, over the Christmas, and he was disappointed with the Irish response to EU membership, but I'd actually contend that the facts don't support that statement. If we look on the 64 to 74, Irish milk production actually jumped by 59%, and 74 to 84, it jumped another 76%. And in that 20 years, Irish milk production has almost trebled, went from 100 to 280, and with hugely enhanced knowledge and leading edge world best research at Moore Park, I actually think we'll say that if we follow sensible policies, we can do at least as well over the next 20 years. So looking forward, 20 to 2020, the plus 50%, I actually don't think that's a problem. I think that's very close to being a done deal. But we'll say, unless policies are sensible, I think we'll say at that stage, a little bit like New Zealand is, you know, the 25, 28% of their farms run into problems. I think unless we're sensible, we may actually run into the same type situation. So I think I'd probably raise the question as we'll say that, do we put some sensible policies in place to ensure, we'll say that to me the real challenge is 2025 doubling, 2035 trebling, and really it's a question of, will we have a superb dairy industry going forward? We will have a very good dairy industry, but I think we could potentially have a superb dairy industry. So rebuilding a prosperous Irish rural economy, Dublin flying ahead, as we all know, rural Ireland still in recession in many areas. And I think we have to really build on the comparative advantage sectors that can transform the rural economy. I mean, tourism, the Wild Atlantic Way, superb. A couple of other ideas like that would be wonderful. But I also think a big plank should be a flourishing dairy industry. And, and what's the big prize? If you look, we'll say that dairy exports at constant prices could be trebled from 3 billion to 9 billion. And unlike multinationals, we'll say that, which are very welcome, in terms of exports of dairy products, that money largely stays within the state and it whirls around, and it creates a lot of jobs. So it's predicted that if we treble, that the jobs in the dairy service sector would about double. Dairy farm incomes up 560 million per annum every year. The rural economy, it's calculated, will say up 4.25 billion every year. Think of that, what a rural stimulus. Opportunities for young people to get into farming, and opportunities for beef and tillage, who very largely lose money at the moment. So it creates, it's a big prize. But now, some of the things that are necessary, and apologies if this is slightly technical, this particular one, range in production costs and percentage grazed grass. If you look at the axis on the left, that's costs in terms of cents per litre. And we'll say that down at the bottom, low cost, down at, obviously on top, high cost. And looking over, we'll say that over on the right, that is no grazed grass in the system, and that's very high cost. And over on the left, very high grazed grass, and that is very low cost. And again, I want to draw attention, we'll say, to Northern Ireland. If you look at the three arrows to the right, when Northern Ireland effectively was quota free, what people did was, we'll say that they actually they really bought a lot more feed into the system. They drove up production costs. They considerably increased output. They worked harder at higher risk for lower profits. Madness. So one of the key things, we'll say that in the Irish, in our situation, is we'll say that we need, instead of going, we'll say that from 50, 60%, we'll say, which is probably about where the industry is now, instead of going back towards the 50, 40% grazed grass, we actually need to put a lot of effort to ensure that our farmers go left. Now, what's the relevance of that? We'll say the relevance is quite simple. That takes skill. And in terms of, there's a double challenge in terms of upskilling that existing farmers. We need a strong advisory service. Our research is excellent, but we'll say that we need an increased emphasis, if you like, and probably increased resources in terms of getting that message out to every interested farmer. Now, and the second one I want to bring is, emphasises the need for excellent, skilled young people coming into the industry. Now, there's about 600 a year going into the ag colleges. that sounds good, but I question that. Chairman, I'm aware, we'll say that you had the benefit of going through the Farmer Apprenticeship Board, as I did. Excellent training schemes. In the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, there was about 75 highly trained people going through that scheme, well fit to manage farms. That stopped altogether a number of years ago. It's been revived at the moment, but there's about 16 people a year going through there. Dairy Gold estimate, their estimate is in their area they need 75 people. Glanbia, the Kerry reckon they need about 75 people. I haven't estimates for the rest of the country, but 16 as against a demand that's probably pretty close to 300. There's one person responsible for these people coming through. The need to put some money specifically into this sector, and we'll say that the return will be absolutely massive. If there's one area where the state can invest, where you'll get a return of well over 100% per year, every year, repetitive. So it's now switching on. Sorry, go forward. Yeah. Oh yes, sorry. Rebuilding now banks. More flexible policies, and I want to highlight two areas where I think banks need to be more flexible. The first point, interest-only periods. Bank of Ireland, I'm just taking those because they have a clearly stated policy, and will say that they have said that they will grant in an interest-only year once in the lifetime of a particular loan. Now, this could be a 10 or 15-year loan, and as we saw, we'll say that you can expect in terms of down years, over the course of that loan, they could easily be hit, farmers could easily be hit 3 or 4 times with down years. So the need to be more flexible in terms of interest only, and in a year such as 2009, on wettish farms and down milk price, farmers require 2 or 3 years to climb out of that hole. So sometimes with businesses that are basically sound, the need for banks will say, if necessary, to extend an interest-only period for 2 years. That I think it's a big, and I mean the state has a big influence now in the banking system. And the second one I'd probably like in terms of banks, like to highlight is, I'd like to contrast financing young farmers as they get started, where they don't have hard assets as collateral. Irish banks will say they will give you very, very little money without hard collateral, that's land or property. And we all know, we'll say that it costs the state, 60 billion odd, like this particular policy. A young Irish farmer will find it very hard to get even 30,000. The banks, they will say more, but the experience talking to young people, they're actually not getting it. Could I highlight, we'll say that 2 young Irish people, who I know very well, and they're across in the States, they're with UMB. US banks tend to be either very big or very small. UMB is the strongest of all the small rural banks. And I met with them at a fairly high level in the last 12 months, and they said they always look for 3 things. The person, the track record, and the integrity and so on of somebody. Secondly, they look at the actual project. And third, they look at collateral. And if 2 of the 3 are very good, they go ahead. Now, Irish banks are not doing that except for tiny sums. And in terms of future development, we're choking off the potential of a lot of very good young people. That we need to move on that. The other one is support introduction of risk management schemes, as in the last the US Farm Bill. And it was mentioned greater covering forward, fixing forward. Well, Glanbia are doing that a bit, and it should be encouraged, and it should be encouraged more. But probably the one I want to highlight is the US in the last Farm Bill has brought in actually a kind of an insurance policy to insure for margin. Now, it does not put more money into farmers' pockets over the cycle. But we'll say that what it does is, we'll say these awful dips, we'll say that it protects profit margin, and it'll, even in the bad years, it'll give you a certain amount of profit margin. And I think we'll say that I think we should. I'd suggest, Chairman, we should look at it very seriously. There is no particular reason why we couldn't be done, and it should be self-funding. The direction Irish farmers should take, and with quotas come off, I hope to God we move left. And if we do, we will have a very, very vibrant, dairy farming industry strengthening. Final message: we have a huge comparative advantage in Ireland to produce milk at low cost from the grass-rich route. More grass means more money in farmers' pockets, means more sustainability, means more processing, more exports, you name it. If we follow good policies, we can build a superbly internationally competitive dairy industry for the benefit of Irish farm families, the rural economy and the national economy. Let's all play our part. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. Deputy O'Queeve.
Yeah, I'd like to thank both ICAS and Positive Farmers for the contribution, and certainly I think we're all going to take an awful lot away from what is said here today.